Hello, Elena.
Hey, Mårten.
Great to get some time with you.
Yes, good to see you.
And talk AI, a
Yes.
truly transformative force that is coming to life now.
Yeah, great stuff. My favorite topic.
It's such an interesting one. It creates so much opportunities. We now are starting to talk about this in a fairly clear way, right? Networks for AI and AI for networks.
I think it's great that there are two sides of story because AI for networks, that's been around in telecom sector obviously for many, many years. Because AI needs a domain, and telecom, what can be better domain? Because we have a very complex system there to manage. So it's really rewarding to be an AI implementation person to work in telecom sector. But in recent days, we also see the rise of AI applications that run on top of our networks, and this is when we really need the best networks for AI so that they deliver the best performance.
And if we start by looking a little bit at the networks for AI, there are, of course, a bunch of new use cases that is coming now. You have the glasses that will be connected, of course, sending a lot of traffic in the network. You have agencies being connected, cars being connected, all of this generating traffic in the network that we need to prepare and build a network for that is capable of handling all of this new traffic.
AI applications are special. They have special characteristics compared to other applications that we've seen on our network. So there are three specific distinct things that they require. They need to have a dependable, reliable uplink, or in general bigger bandwidth, but a reliable uplink. Another thing is that they often require really low latency and reliable low latency. In all these, AR glasses and every kind of physical AI, you need to have reliable low latency, otherwise you will get dizzy when you wear glasses. And the third one is the scale. So it's the density of devices that use the network, and maybe they need to use the offloading in real time. So it's the scale really, because we see the examples. The examples are great already today, but we need to have infrastructure that supports the scale.
And we're sort of halfway through the 5G cycle. And we built a lot of capabilities for new use cases. You have 5G differentiated connectivity, 5G standalone, and then the ability to export all of this through APIs, through application developers, also taking care of all of this differentiation of the traffic. So I think we built a great foundation for this in 5G. And if we then move over from networks for AI into AI for networks.
Yeah.
That's really where we see us taking opportunity of AI in the way that we're building this product.
So we've had AI already from 4G days, 5G, and now we go looking into the 6G. The big shift, I think, is that we need to manage the whole network end to end. Because it's not about adding one little AI algorithm here and there. That maybe just creates even bigger complexity, and maybe the algorithms having different strategies. So that's why it's crucial that we do it end to end for all our components. It's crucial that we are using our intent-based management, meaning that you don't just give a little tweak here and there in different parts of the network, but you rather give a high-level intent, such as decrease energy consumption, for example, or increase coverage in that area, for example. And then through different techniques, that intent gets decomposed into lower level intents and in the end in technical action, because okay, we need AI and we need decisions, but we need to act in the end. We do have a lot of agents in the network. We do have knowledge bases, so the network is becoming like a smart entity by itself.
And then many of us in this industry are engineers, and engineers have one thing in common: they love solving problems. And I think that's why we're also so excited about AI, because AI is also a great tool to solve problems, and especially when the complexity of those problems is increasing. So what we're doing is that we're looking at this across the stack, because the problems are somewhat different if you compare the physical layer 1 to the mobility of layer 3, from a distributed architecture to a centralized architecture. And all of these different types of problems are solved in different ways. But we do that together with AI in all of these functions and areas.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think the important part also here is that the whole AI industry is moving so fast. So for us, it's critical to be able to adapt very quickly to anything new coming out there. Openness is very important in our networks, so that we are not locked into one path, but we actually can operate on different types of hardware. Scalability of compute so that we don't kind of explode the compute, not just throwing more and more compute. We need to make sure it scales nicely. So we're working on our own Ericsson silicon to make sure the inferencing is very efficient.
It's an interesting problem. It's really about having the right compute at the right place.
Right.
And it's also interesting to see that this is now becoming a reality. If you went to World Congress in Barcelona 2 years ago, people were saying AI instead of saying hi, right? and now this is actually not just a hype, it's actually becoming a reality. And we are actually putting out the features out into live networks handling customer traffic. And we see great gains of it. We see 10% spectral improvements of the first functions that we have built, which is really massive because spectrum is a limited asset to our customers. So it can also improve the performance of the network, creating 20% more user throughput in the network for the users, which is also very important with all of these new heavy use cases that is coming along. Then we talked a little bit about energy, and energy is super important. Cost of energy is high in many parts of the world, but we also want to be a good citizen and make sure that we minimize the use of carbon footprint as well, which is also an opportunity for AI where we can actually reduce. We have seen the first trial reducing 14% energy consumption in the network. So truly excited about seeing this become a reality now. And an area that has been increasingly on my mind and on our customers' mind, and very often discussed in meetings now, is actually the security of the network. So everything we do is building a mission-critical network that is fundamental for both how we live our lives, but also how society functions. But that also, of course, exposes them and why security becomes so important. So we do a lot of functionality when it comes to security, making sure that we can build the most secure network for our customers. But we also make sure that we have a high security posture, everything from the way that we introduce software, but also the way that we code software to make sure that it is as secure as possible for our customer.
What's so special about AI is that it may, if not configured correctly, misbehave by itself. That's why we have the trustworthy AI work that we are doing from the start. So we have that by design with AI explainability, the guardrails that we have in our system so that we make sure we use AI everywhere, but with care.
It's an interesting part of the technology cycle as well, right? Because now we get a large disruption in the middle of a gen cycle. So obviously everything we do now is starting in 5G, but it's also really setting the tone for how we are now designing 6G. So we are building 5G functions now, AI native, into the products that we're doing, but it's also setting the architecture for 6G. So that's also an exciting opportunity to start with.
The requirements from the market, they are pushing us to actually solve that complexity and make sure that our digital stack or networks are capable of catering for that.
And that's really how I look at this as we go forward, right? Because this is something that is happening now. AI is becoming a reality, and starting to build the networks and prepare for this is not something for the future, it's something for today.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting for us to start doing that, right?
Yeah, it will open up new capabilities. And use cases that we don't even think of, I think they will be created on top of the reliable networks.
Great to get the opportunity to speak to Elena.
Likewise, good stuff.
Such an exciting opportunity. Let's go build some products for this now.
Let's do it.